Hey everyone, this is going to be a very quick video about our watercolor techniques workshop. I'm not going to show you each technique individually, but I'm going to walk you through them and explain them so that if you are absent, hopefully you can get it caught up. But that way this stays a fairly quick video. So first thing you need to do is get your piece of paper. It should be thick watercolor paper. We are going to put these in our art books when we're done. That's why they have the holes punched. But if you would like to put a piece of tape going along the side, so that way, you know, you could cut it in the future. Let's say you wanted to, you know, keep it and do something with it after this class. You're welcome to do that. But basically, you need to take the thin 1/2 inch tape and section your paper off into 10 sections. 10, okay? Not 9, not 11, 10. After you peel off some tape, kind of stick it onto your pants first and then put it on your paper, and that way it won't be super sticky and less likely to rip your paper. Also, just a tip, if you fold these over, they're more difficult to get off, so just leave the edges of your tape because you're going to peel it all off at the end anyway. All right, first technique that we're going to start with is the simplest, most basic. It's a flat wash. So get a Sharpie and write the names of each of the techniques with an arrow pointing to what space it's going to be in. So flat wash, basically you're just using a even smooth coat of whatever color you choose for a flat wash. A gradient wash is going to be our next one, and basically put a lot of pigment or color on one side and then slowly fade to clear. Okay, if you want to, you can wet down your paper first. It's kind of like priming your paper with just water, and then that way it'll help. It'll help you pull that color or pull that pigment to where it turns clear. Third one that we're going to talk about is called a variegated wash, V-A-R-I-E-G-A-T-E-D wash, okay? And this is very similar to the gradient wash, except you're flowing from one color to another. And depending on the two colors you choose, obviously they're going to mix in the middle to create a different color. I chose kind of a turquoise and a orangey yellow, and so that created sort of a brownish tan gold color in between. So you're just trying to flow smoothly from one color to another, and it'll obviously create a different color when those two mix. Next one you're gonna do is part 1 of glazing. So part 1, paint some shapes in different colors and then let them dry, okay? So I started off with pink, purple, and turquoise, okay? And I painted all of these different shapes, and you've got to let them dry before you can do the second part. Also leave some white space in there as well. So different shapes, different colors, leave some white space. Then let glazing dry. We'll come back to it. The next one we're going to talk about is lift off. And what you're going to do, you've got to prep this one first with just a flat wash, and then we'll come back to it once it's dry. So a flat wash, just like this one, whatever color you want, let it dry. While those two are drying, you can go ahead and do dry brush. So you want to clean your brush out with water, dry it off on a paper towel really well, and then pick a color in your paint palette that's already kind of soupy. Not totally soaked, but not dry either. And then you're just using your brush to see the different type of textures that you could get by using dry brush. Next one we'll talk about is splatter. So this one, you want a clean brush and then get your paint palette really soupy, okay? Really wet, really liquidy. And what you'll do, we're not going to flick the brush. You can try tapping it if it's got really watery paint on it, tapping it, or you can get your fingers and kind of flick it like this. But basically splattering paint in that section. The next one we're going to talk about is wet on wet. So what you're going to do is paint a flat wash. I painted a green flat wash, and then you're going to choose another color. I chose kind of a blue purple, and while the green is still wet, start dropping dots or painting things in there and see how it spreads, how it flows. I even rinsed my brush off and got some just plain clean water and then dropped it in here, and you can see how it spread. There's not a lot of control over this technique. Next one is alcohol. So there should be little eyedroppers and baby food containers that have alcohol in them. So paint a flat wash and then you just soak up some of this alcohol and drop, you know, one drop here and there, and watch how it causes the color to spread. Lastly is resist. And for this one, you're gonna need an oil pastel, which is like this. We know that oil and water don't mix, so whatever lines I draw with my oil pastel, those are not going to soak up a lot of the color when I paint on top of it. So that's a resist. At this point, hopefully your glazing, your first layer, is dry. So what I want you to do for glazing is pick a different color or a couple of colors and then paint on top of those. See how the green looks on plain paper when it's on top of the turquoise, and then when it's on top of the purple. Same thing with the orange. How does that interact with the teal beneath it? How does it interact with the pink beneath it? So different color or colors, and watch how those interact with the colors beneath it, okay? Lift off, this is kind of like your erasing, or as close as you can get to erasing in the watercolor world. So what you do is you dip your brush in clean water. Let's say all of this was orange and you needed to erase part of it. Let me get another example. Let's say I wanted to erase part of this blue. I can dip my brush in clean water and then rub it on here and dab up the water with a paper towel, and it'll create these areas where I've started to erase some of the pigment. It's kind of hard to see on the video, but on the left I just dabbed with my paper towel, and on the right I like pressed and scooted my paper towel across, and you can see my paper started to kind of disintegrate. So I really suggest dabbing with the paper towel and not doing a scrubbing motion. So this was a really quick intro to our watercolor techniques. Once you're done, you can start peeling off your tape and then using Sharpie to add embellishments. So there are examples of this in Echo in the Watercolor Techniques workshop. Use a Sharpie to start drawing shapes. Maybe you just sort of follow the lines of you know, the different shapes. Maybe I wanted to turn this into a sun. It can be more abstract, or you can actually draw things that, you know, we can tell what they are. It's totally up to you. But basically, use your leftover time to add embellishments. Make sure that I see it and you can identify what each of these are. If you would like to show it to me before you take your tape off, I can just see your labels. If you take your tape off, you're gonna have to tell me what each of them are, okay? So make sure that I see it, and that way I can get your grade into Echo. Thanks, guys.